Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. I have a little bit of a tag for you. I saw this on Pax Panic's channel and thought this would be relatively easy to accomplish. And I kind of need easy at the moment, so here I am with a tag, the To Die For book tag. She saw it on Peter the Book Lover's channel. I'll have his channel linked down below. He no longer has the original video up, I believe. But it's definitely, go check out his channel. Very, very new channel. I think he's got one video that's still up. And the concept here is that you just talk about the 5 books that you want the most right now. Kind of whittle down that wish list to the 5 that you're looking for. And since I'm on a self-imposed buying challenge through as long as I can make it, where I'm buying 1 book a quarter, and I have not made a purchase yet this quarter, this is a good exercise for me because it lets me consider what's out there and really trim it down to what the next one of the next purchases is going to be. Because as you know, things are always in fluctuation. What is appealing today may get bumped down just a little bit on the list tomorrow. And so, but I thought this was a fun exercise. And so I'm going to talk about 5 books that are on this list. I'm going to talk about, because I do board games as well, I'm going to talk about 1 board game that's also on the list. And I will have the actual list on Amazon linked down below, so you can check out the books if any of them sound interesting to you. So yeah, we're going to start with one that is on my wish list because of Michael K. Vaughan. Plain and simple. And this isn't going to be the last one that's on this list because of Michael K. Vaughan. Unfortunately, he's a huge influence on me. And I love his channel. I love just being a good friend with him. And more than anything else, he has a way of talking about books that gets me excited for them. And so far, he hasn't steered me wrong on the books that I've picked up because of him. And so one of the latest ones that I've been wanting for a while, but have never gotten around to picking up, and I need to change that soon, is Jirel of Giori by C.L. Moore. And in this, his description of the book, the protagonist, are just magnificent. I'll see if I can find a link to the video that he made about this and have that down below, because when you're done watching it, it might be on your wish list too. But let's, this is just going to be the little snippet off of Amazon. It says, with her red hair flowing, her yellow eyes glinting like embers, and her face streaked with blood, Jirel is strong, fearless, and driven by honor. The fierce, proud, and relentless commander of warriors, standing tall above her enemies and simmering with rage, Jirel bids farewell to the world of treacherous men and walks through a forbidden door into hell itself in pursuit of freedom, justice, and revenge. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, then I don't know what to say. It absolutely fascinates me. I want to read it because it is very highly praised by him. It sounds great. The protagonist reminds me a lot of the main protagonist that I've been writing about, Ava, who is the star of Monster Huntress. And I know at least a few people have read it and have just fallen in love with the character as well. And her character is what kept me writing in that, and what continues to pull me to write more whenever I get a chance to have some more time. So the next one, I'm going to jump away from a Michael K. Vaughan pick here. I don't even have a little snippet to read off about it. But that's going to be The Ghost Brigades by John Scalzi. This is book 2 of the Old Man War series, which is 6 books long. Looking through my collection, I'm currently reading Old Man's War. Absolutely loving it. I'm about a quarter of the way through. And so it's confirming I'm going to want to read more. And I happen to have book 3 in the series. But I'm missing book 2. And I don't want there to be a massive gap between when I finish book 1 and when I come back to the series. I do that far too often with things. It took me almost a year to get back around to reading Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons, and I'm just absolutely loving it. And I don't want that to be the case with this series by Scalzi. So I want to at least read the first 3 relatively close together, hopefully this summer. I'm leaning towards this probably being the purchase I'm going to make for this quarter. But I've still got 2 more months left in this quarter, and that could change wildly, especially if I decide to go the route of just looking for it in the library, which is not what I prefer to do. I'd rather have it, but when you're kind of on a limited basis for making your purchases, you got to make them count. So this is very high in contention. So we're going to circle back to another Michael K. Vaughan. And he influenced me to fall for Robert E. Howard. I've picked up one of the Conan volumes on his strong recommendation and love it. And I've explored more Robert E. Howard since then, including Worms of the Earth, a collection of stories about Bran MacMorn, who was one of the big characters that Robert E. Howard wrote about, who he unfortunately didn't write much about. But Bran MacMorn might be my favorite character so far. And so I have these nice Conan volumes. I want a matching volume in Bran MacMorn. I want all of them, but the next one I'd like is Bran MacMorn. Because I'd love to have a reason to revisit things like Worms of the Earth and the other stories in there that I've already seen, and see what else is contained in this volume. Because if it's anything like the Conan volume, it's got extras included in there about Bran MacMorn, about the stories and the drafting process and whatnot. And so I would really love to dive into that. Because as it says here as an introduction to him, in ages past, the Picts ruled all Europe, but the descendants of those proud conquerors have sunk into barbarism, all save one, Bran MacMorn, whose blood line remains unbroken. Threatened by the Celts and the Romans, the Pictish tribes rally under his banner to fight for their very survival, while Bran fights to restore the glory of his race. And that sums up the character. I absolutely love it. It's a well-written character. And it's historical fiction written in a time period that I really, really enjoy. So you have the two of them coming together to make a perfect character for me to really dive into. Next is a continuation of an author that I've really, really enjoyed this year and want to continue exploring. And that's Harlan Ellison. I've encountered Harlan Ellison on the page as a short story writer. But that's only one of 3 facets for Harlan Ellison. I plan to watch at least 1 or 2 episodes of various TV series where he was a screenwriter for, including the Star Trek episode next month for, Book Trek. I may or may not read a Star Trek book, but at the very least I watch a Star Trek episode, which is more than I do on any given month normally. So I'll be encountering Harlan Ellison as a screenwriter, but the other place to approach him is Harlan Ellison, the editor. And he is very, very well reputed as an editor, and none more so in terms of the volume to take a look at, to get to know him in that capacity, is Dangerous Visions, which was an anthology that he put together. And I believe the premise was, these are stories that other publications refused to publish for various things that were within the stories themselves. Not because the writing wasn't good enough, but because they contained some sort of content that made the publication deem it unpublishable for them. And so that kind of tongue-in-cheek, coming back at everything, saying, okay, well, you guys rejected these stories because they were too much for you. Well, I'm going to publish them here, and people are going to love it. It absolutely was a success. And so it says here, anthologies seldom make history, but Dangerous Visions is a grand exception. Harlan Ellison's 1967 collection of science fiction stories set an almost impossibly high standard, as more than a half dozen of its stories won major awards. Not surprising, with a contributor list that reads like a who's who of 20th century science fiction. So I'm incredibly interested in reading this and encountering not only the various writers and the stories that are in there, but the collection as a whole, and Harlan Ellison as an editor and how he put it all together. So that is one that I'm absolutely interested in, and I'm going to hopefully this month be finishing my first Harlan Ellison book with Angry Candy. So I'll be ready for a new type of Ellison to cycle in. So the last one for my 5 books is an epic collection. Marvel epic collection. So yes, again, Michael K. Vaughan is to blame here. Very much to blame. And with good reason. He talks about these every Wednesday on his channel. Or at least had been until his partner in crime had some major renovations that have kind of slowed down his video producing schedule. So, of course, when looking at epic collections, I'm drawn to my favorite comic book series, which would be the X-Men. And in particular, I want to pick up kind of where I left off, because I'm trying to very, very, very slowly work my way through comic books that feature my favorite superhero out of all the X-Men, and that would be Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. And I got just a couple issues past the Days of Future Past storyline. And so I believe next up for me, in terms of the epic collection, would be I, Magneto, which features a whole bunch of stuff, including one that really, really sounds good. The Immortal Kitties Fairy Tale, a storybook fantasy that introduced Kitty's loyal pet dragon, the lovable Lockheed. And right there, that was enough to tell me, I want this, because I know nothing about Lockheed's origins. And I'm really, really curious to find out. So I have a Marvel Epic collection that is on my horizon. That's not to say that it wasn't in close contention with Volume 3 of Monstrous, or Volume 3 of Saga, or even a compendium of one of those two, because those are two graphic novels I'm just absolutely devouring and loving every minute of. But again, I think I've got access to all of them in a library somewhere close by. So I don't need them yet. They're ones that I'll eventually get anyway. But finding X-Men issues and collections has been like pulling teeth around here. So I'm going to turn to Marvel's Epic collections and see how far I can go through those. Between the Epic collections and the Marvel Masterworks, theoretically, I should be able to hit most of the highlights along the way and be able to pick up from this point onward and just really enjoy the reading process. So we have one last thing to talk about here. So that was my 5 books. And again, I'll have a link to the Amazon wish list with all 6 of these items in it, so that you can look at them for yourselves if you're interested. So the very last thing is a board game, because I play lots of board games, and I really enjoy it. After a lot of consideration, I went with a board game that is one that I've been wanting to play. Again, it's been many years since I played this. I had a friend who lived nearby that was super into this game for a while. And he had me play a couple of times with him, and I enjoyed myself. But the theming wasn't really for me. But, I was always happy to play with him, but we had other games that we enjoyed and played often. And I am wanting this game as much for the ability to play it myself as I am for coming up with a grand scheme that includes none other than the Michael K. Vaughan. I told you that this video is pretty much sponsored by Michael K. Vaughan. You know, he might as well write a check and send it my way because I'm just can't stop talking about him. But this is the Arkham Horror card game, published by Fantasy Flight Games, and this is in particular the core box for it. It's one that I need to revisit because I do think I'm going to enjoy it. It's one that can be played solo or cooperatively with up to 4 friends. This core box lets you play up to 2, but with 2 core boxes, or if you expand beyond that, because they have lots and lots of content that you can pick up for more scenarios that you can play and more investigators that you can recruit and all kinds of stuff to really, really expand. But the reason why I'm really interested in this is through the use of technology. I'm sure there's some way that I can come up with a scheme to coerce Michael to playing this with me via distance. And we all know that he enjoys Lovecraft, and so Arkham Horror would be right up his alley. With it being a cooperative thing, it's not like I'm going to be out there trying to take advantage of my greater experience in playing board games against him. Instead, we'll be working together to overcome incredible odds. And so getting a copy of this, I could throw together an investigator deck and mail it off to him that he could play, and then we could find a way to do it online. Somehow, some way. I'm sure we could. But first I need to get a copy of the core game, and I think it'll be well worth the time to have it and to refresh myself with it here, and then try to figure something like that out, because I think that would just be a whole lot of fun, whether or not we did it live to where other people could watch. Probably not the first time, because we'd want to work out the kinks, but to figure out a way to do something like that might be a really fun thing that, you know, maybe I could coerce him to doing it something like quarterly, and we just have a blast with it, I would hope. And that might lead to him, you know, picking up this in Marvel Champions, which is another fantastic one that I already own, that I think would be right up his alley for another cooperative game where it's just going to be a lot of fun. And so that's why that one's on the list, because the more I thought about it, the more that idea appealed to me, of coming up with a way to rope him in to playing a board game with me. Because it's going to be far cheaper to pick this up and mail him an investigator deck and figure out the hassles of online stuff than it would be to fly all the way out there to him. It's something I plan to do someday. But I don't have the capacity to do that at the moment, with the small kids and you know, the daughter with medical needs who can't really travel, and we can't really travel far away from her at the moment. So I thought this would be a fun way to bring together with him. So there you have it. This is the To Die For tag. And it was a lot of fun, so I'm glad I caught it on Pax's channel. And thank you again to, let's see here, Peter the Book Lover, for coming up with this idea, because it's fun to just talk about what you're interested in. You know, it won't lead to a book haul because I can only buy one of these books. And even that, I'm probably going to hold off at least a little bit to get through Old Man's War to see if there's that impulse to immediately go after that, or if I pick up Dangerous Visions next, or what have you, because I think any of the 5 could be a conceivable next purchase, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm going to tag 3 people because I'm very interested in their answers for reasons. So I'm going to tag Juan from Plagued by Visions. I'm going to tag, of course, Michael K. Vaughan, because I've mentioned his name like 400,000 times, so I might as well tag him in it officially so that he can do this. And then I'm going to tag John from Hey Y'all Listen Up, because I want to know what would be on your the top of your wish list. 5 books that you really, really would like to have. So thank you for watching, and if you're interested in doing it, feel free to do it yourself too. Don't wait for yourself to be tagged. Consider this to be an open tag, because I think this is a fun twist on what we usually do. So have a good day.